Welcome back. We're back again talking about some more interesting stuff. Yeah, today I just got this coffee cup in the mail that I bought for my mom. I don't know if that's backwards or not. Looks like it from here. But let's see here. So this video I'm going to be talking about Trump, all right? First of all, I've talked about how Trump is being persecuted, and it's a lot like the third world countries that you see, like Argentina just has a situation where they put the leading candidate in jail. Then you have Bolsonaro putting Lulu in jail, and then they put the other one in jail. This is like every time they want someone that's popular to not win an election, they just put them in jail for a minute. Now, Lulu was only in jail for I don't even know how long. I think it was like a couple of years. I can't remember. I wasn't really paying that much attention to it, to be honest. But this is happening all over the world, or, we do coups everywhere and just interfere with elections all the time as a matter of policy, so whatever. But it shouldn't be happening here because we claim to have this beacon of democracy that nobody else in the world has. But but it's happening. They're throwing everything they can at Trump. That none of these charges sound like they are going to really stick, I guess. But that doesn't necessarily mean anything these days. We've seen these kangaroo court actions with basically anything, and there just seems to be no accountability, and nobody, you see somebody getting wrongfully done, and there's just nobody helping the situation, nobody talking about it. Mainstream won't go near it. Trump's got a lot of enemies. Hold on. Just like I was saying, Trump's got a lot of enemies. He's got a long hole to crawl out of. I hear a lot of people, I know a lot of Trump people, and my mom, she really likes Trump, so this is hard to make this video to break the bad news, but I mean, everybody's hoping Trump's going to be the savior, that he's going to save us from new COVID tyrannies coming down the pipe, and all this other stuff, and maybe, I don't know, I mean, there's a lot of things going on that the people in the Trump movement put a lot of weight behind Trump as being some kind of solution or savior figure in this. It'd be a really high climb up a really steep hill. Because, I mean, right now, he's got these cases, and who knows if more are coming, that they're trying to indict him on, and it's not like, even if they do, none of these cases prevents him from still running for president. So even despite those cases, and even if he's in jail, he could still possibly win the presidency. That is very likely. Especially if Joe Biden's the nominee, or somebody like Joe Biden, and there's not a lot of energy there. Not a lot of people have confidence that Biden could even beat Trump again. Starting to look like you can't. But, you got all these agencies like the CIA, the FBI, the DOJ. These people, they're, it seems like, have been weaponized against Trump and his movement ever since 2015. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but the FBI specifically has been just hammering on Trump for years now. This is just this little hole he has to climb out of, and then he's got to get elected, despite the fact, and I'm going to go out there, I guess we're allowed to say this on YouTube now, that the last election was shady as hell. There's a very good chance that you could say that it was rigged. If you looked at all the evidence and looked at all the stuff I've seen, and going back to when the DNC rigged the primary in 2016 and essentially in 2020 as well, to prevent Bernie, who was a populist rising up in the Democratic Party, side of the aisle or whatever. They tried to stop him the same way, and on the election rigging that they did to Bernie was the same stuff they did to Trump. And now it all comes down to when you want to change the results of an election, you have to do a lot of different things. And I've said this before in some video talking about something, but you have to do all the tools in the shed approach. And none of these individual actions that you do are going to be so noticeable, except for maybe the stuffing of the ballots and some of the other things that we've seen in 2020. The machines, which everybody on both sides of the aisle and mainstream media and everywhere you go, everybody admits and knows and says that the machines are shady. They're easily hackable, they're easily riggable, you can program algorithms into them, you can make them, they can connect to remote networks for some reason. So Trump's got to beat all those odds just to get back into the president's position. And then what? Well, when it comes to the mandates, the COVID tyranny that he recently spoke of, what's he going to do? Shake up all these institutions like the FDA, the CDC? Is he going to go against WHO? Because WHO is moving to take over everything. Like when a new pandemic comes, they're going to come in and tell everybody that has to you get a vaccine or you go to a concentration camp, is what it sounds like it's going to be. And America's supposed to be the enforcer of this with military and police and stuff, so who knows? That's a big fight to stop the mandates if they do try to pull another pandemic. That's huge. Now we've heard a lot of stuff going on with just the war in Ukraine. How about that? Will Trump be able to stop the war in Ukraine tomorrow, like he said? That would be really awesome, I think. Basically, what would he have to do? Well, he would have to stop funding the war. Well, who's going to piss? That's going to piss a lot of people off right there. Because what is the Ukraine war? It's a money laundering operation for the military-industrial complex, and basically we've seen the Democratic Party get like money laundering through Sam Bankman-Fried's crypto exchange or whatever. So basically Ukraine is just a big corrupt country. It always has been. It was called the most corrupt country in Europe for many years by anybody that looks into these things, which is very few people these days, apparently. But where else are you going to set up your next big money laundering operation for the military-industrial complex after Afghanistan and after all that stuff's done? Got no choice but to go somewhere corrupt. Put in a puppet president, a guy that literally was an actor / comedian, and then make him president. He's a good actor. He can act like he wants more money. So you got, the CIA is really knee deep in that war, and so is like all the military-industrial complex people are, building new stockpiles of stuff and dumping all our old stuff on them. So it's going to be really hard to shut that one down. You got all the Democrats, and 100% of the Democrats are all in on watching, Ukraine grind up all their people for the military-industrial complex money laundering operation. They won't go to the table, and they certainly won't. Trump is just one guy. He'd have to come in with a coalition in the government to try to shut this down. And like I said, 100% of the Democrats are 100% for the war. And then when you go on the Republican side, it's not a lot. Like, it's not the super majority like that or anything, but it's a lot. Like, it's not. You'd have to do a major shakeup, and I haven't seen that kind of campaigning even going on. I haven't seen like Trump out there talking about, oh yeah, these candidates are going to come in with me and we're going to shut this down, we're going to get that done. there's like the Freedom Caucus over on the Republican side. I don't know. They kind of make a little noise, and it just seems ineffectual because there's just not enough people that aren't corporately controlled. And who's the biggest corporations controlling these people? Well, you got the banks, the military industrial complex, big pharma. And that's again the mandates right back to all these representatives. And then you go back to the states and all these governors. A lot of Republican governors too were on board with the mandates, or they weren't exactly shutting the mandates down. Like, that's one of my criticisms with Trump, is he could have shut the mandates down. That's something you could have done. So then you know what else? We got the war. That's a big one. You got other tensions with other countries, and you know it seems like Trump was better on that front. But nobody's perfect, and he did bomb Syria, and he did fund Ukraine a little bit. Like, he did get impeached for not funding them enough, I think is how I would word that. But yeah, that's just another big ticket item that, you know, if Trump's going to be the savior, what about the CBDCs? What about the digital currencies? And to go right along with the mandates, we're talking about also the vaccine passport, because, you know, when they roll out these vaccines, they really want to get rid of them. Like, they're shipping hundreds of millions of them per company to different countries, to America, Europe, and they want, you know, needles in arms, dude. They don't want to have the stockpiles go to waste. So, and then the CBDCs is just another way that they're going to roll out a control system. How are they even going to get to that? How are they going to make it so the average person's just going to be like, yeah, that's going to be a good idea? Well, they're going to force it in by collapsing the economy and the dollar. They're already working overtime on that. And over the last, 18 months, the economy has literally shed trillions of dollars. You know, whether it be corporations losing hundreds of billions here and there, or whether it's the government itself. The deficit and situation right now that we're running, and the debt that we have, which I don't know what that even means. Are we in debt to banks? Is that who's controlling everybody? The banks? Yep, they are. And that's who's controlling the CBDC push. And when you say central bank digital currency, and you're talking about America, who's our central bank? The Federal Reserve? The Federal Reserve is the biggest controlling arm of the currency in America. So, who do they answer to? And we answer to the IMF. We answer to bigger banks. There's bigger banks than America has, I guess. And these people are all pushing for this central bank digital currency. The WEF is pushing for this extra control. You have all the agencies that are already they already don't like Trump. They don't want him to be anywhere near the office. And they're also, a cogs in the machine to make this CBDC thing work. And basically, how are you going to fight that? You have to go up against the Federal Reserve. You have to go up against the IMF. Like, this is what we're talking about. Like, it's almost like America is going to have to become like this, us against the whole world, in terms of, like, in order to do all these big ticket things that I'm mentioning that would have to happen to save us, if someone was going to be our savior. And let's not forget that when we're talking about that US dollar collapse and them trying to push the CBDC out, currently BRICS, I don't know if you know anything about what that is, because they don't really talk about it on the TV. So if that's what you're watching and you're not knowing that, these countries, it's getting to be like every country but us are getting together to get rid of the US dollar as a reserve currency. And they no longer want the petrodollar either, which essentially the same thing. I mean, the petrodollar is where if you wanted to buy oil or gas from OPEC, You got to first convert your money into US dollars and then buy it with that. Pretty nifty little scheme. And over here on stateside, we don't notice the inflation when we're printing money like it's going out of style because everybody's always buying our money. It keeps it going, you know, keeps it flowing. And then you got all these people offshoring money to kind of keep it balanced. But that's just another thing that Trump will have to go up against or join. I mean, if to join BRICS would be to surrender, for America to surrender empire. And I don't know if Trump even wants to do that. I mean, I'm not saying Trump is some kind of emperor, but in the position of power, who knows what anybody would do when confronted with that choice. And that's a historical choice. Everything happening right now is super huge historical shit. Like, you know, the whole Trump running again after they tried to say he did this insurrection, which I'm not going to put... When you say this insurrection shit, the fact that they tried to say that he did the insurrection also is a huge history ticket item, but it starts paling in comparison when you go to the next step, where now he's running. And the next step, well, now they're going to indict him 4 times. And then the next step, shoe drops, he wins. And then the next step, what are they going to do after that? I mean, all those entities that I'm talking about that are anti-Trump on a global scale for nefarious reasons that they all have in common, kind of, pretty much, they're capable of just taking Trump right out, you know. I mean, they've been doing some bold stuff in recent memory, and a move like that would not surprise anybody. Would not surprise me. I don't know what to tell you about whether Trump is this savior figure. Can he be? Will they let him? Is it even possible? I think the answer to all those questions are obvious, but in the end, I think Trump would be a better president than pretty much anybody else that's running, just because he's funny. I mean, nobody else is going to get anything done on any of those fronts that I just mentioned. And there's other things, too, that are big things that I probably should talk about, too. But in the interest of time, I'm just going to keep it to those major items and leave it at that and say that, you know, when it comes to Trump, never surrender seems to be his motto. I mean, he's taken a lot of shit from these establishment people that used to love him, boy. I mean, he had the #1 show for a decade. He had, like, you know, I mean, if you know anything, I didn't watch the show personally, but he basically had, that's where he could have his ego on full display, and they loved that. They loved that shit. But and then they tried to Pied Piper him so that Hillary could defeat, you know, the big wicked fascist Trump guy and, you know, ride off to her coronation. But that didn't happen. And, you know, so you also have Hillary out there. If anybody would be, like, capable of killing one of their old friends, Trump, I mean, it would probably be her. I mean, it does kind of fit. So yeah, I wouldn't advise Trump to go on any aircraft with Hillary anytime soon. And other than that, I just wanted to keep this light because I know some people will think I'm just gonna, you know, there's a lot of people that do have Trump derangement syndrome, and just talking about Trump in the light that I've talked about him, he's a victim. He's a victim of the oligarch control masters getting really mad that he might get control back. And the polls don't lie. The more they push him, the more his poll numbers go up. So we'll wait and see. I mean, I think it's pretty much like he's not going to have any problem winning the election if it's not rigged even harder than it was last time. Like, if they rig it as hard as last time, maybe he's got a chance, because there's a lot more people that are going to vote for him. A lot more black people, like twice as many. And in fact, 2 out of every 10 black people support Trump now. And that's bad news for the Democratic Party in general. It's more people leaving the Democratic plantation, the plantation that has never provided anybody with any fruit, just labor. And, people are fed up. People are sick of these Democrats acting like they can just tell you what you want to hear and then never give you what you want, what you need to have. And just to say that they're better than Trump is not good enough anymore for most people. And I'm telling you, when it comes time for people to go vote, and the gas prices are still $4 a gallon, and the inflation's still going up, and the jobs still ain't paying shit, Trump's gonna win this fucker in a landslide.